Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, 320 SimPilot, and today we're looking at a really fantastic new feature that the FlyByWire team have added to the A32NX, and that is the TCAS system. It is a huge part of aviation. It's an incredible piece of safety equipment, and it's something that all pilots have to know how to use and get it right every single time, and it's trained almost every single simulator session. It is just absolutely crucial. What TCAS is a traffic collision avoidance system, and it is fitted to airliners to make sure that two airliners do not hit each other. The way it does this is it will talk to the other aircraft. Each aircraft is fitted with its own system. They talk to each other and then they come up with a solution if they think the airplanes are getting too close. It will project ahead and estimate where the airplane will be, and then if it thinks that there's a risk of you getting too close to another airplane, it will tell you. And finally, if it thinks there's even greater risk and that you're definitely getting too close, it will then tell you what to actually do, as in climb or descend or stay level. So it's a very clever system. No two aircraft that have used this system and followed it have ever collided. It's really great. It's a hugely important thing. It overrides air traffic control's instructions, so we have to follow it even if air traffic tell us something different. If we subsequently get a TCAS alert, we follow the TCAS instead. It's a bit like GPWS in that sense. It is also a system that we need to understand how to set up, of course, and to use, and it provides us with nice situational awareness because it does include some display features that we'll be able to see on our navigation display to show us where traffic is. So in today's video, I'm going to go through all of that, how to turn it on, how to understand what you're seeing on your displays, because you can see other airplanes now, and how to react if you get one of these actual resolution advisories, they're called, where you end up having to maneuver the aircraft away from another airplane. As ever, thank you to the FlyByWire team for putting so much effort in and coming up with these amazing advances in the systems on this aircraft. It's really fantastic to see, and this will be filmed using the latest experimental version. So at the time of making this video, TCAS is only in the recently re-released experimental version of the FlyByWire A32NX, but it may well make its way, of course, into the development or stable builds shortly after that. We'll be flying around the London TMA because, of course, there's lots of traffic. I'll be using live traffic in Microsoft Flight Simulator to demonstrate my point and to get a few traffic alerts generated, or traffic advisories, I should say. Right, let's get started. Just before we do, I'd just like to remind you about our partnership with Apex Gaming PCs, where we've created a line of 320 SimPilot PCs. There is currently a sale on 10% off until the end of January 2022 using the code 320 SimPilot. Link will be in the comments. Here we are on the flight deck then, and let's talk about what the TCAS system is. So as we said, it's the traffic collision avoidance system, and it is used to display other traffic on the navigation display to us, and then also to give us warnings if we're getting too close, and finally to tell us how to get out of the way if we are absolutely too close. It is a system that we always have to follow if it activates in the aircraft. Now in this video, please don't worry too much about what's going on in the rest of the airplane. I haven't configured the airplane properly for flying or anything like that. This is just purely a TCAS video. It's all we're going to be talking about today. Also, I'd like to point out that this is talking about the final level of safety. TCAS is a last resort. Before that, we have lots of other things we do to make sure we don't get into one of these situations. I won't be discussing those today. It's just too many things to cover. This is already quite a big video. So we're just looking at if we actually get a TCAS. In the real world, air traffic will do lots of things to make sure this doesn't happen, as will we, including managing our climb and descent rates to prevent these alerts going off, and a few other things, keeping our situational awareness high and so on. But for today's video, we are looking at what happens if we actually get that TCAS issue. So here we are just flying around London, which is obviously a very busy piece of airspace, and yeah, what I'm going to show you is just how to make sure your TCAS is set up. You can see we're getting very close to this aircraft here, but they're actually 1,000 feet beneath us, 7,000 feet, so that's fine, separation. So what we need to do is, on our transponder, you need to make sure it is in auto or on, and you also need to make sure you have the ident button area beneath it is sort of our TCAS area. So you can see it written TCAS on the right here. So it needs to be in TCAS TARA, which stands for Traffic Advisory Resolution Advisory. So you need to have TARA selected down here. If it's set to standby, you won't see anything. You'll actually get an ECAM warning. TCAS is in standby because it's very important that it's on, and you can see we've got nothing on our navigation display. Of course, don't look around the airplane, any of the systems. This is completely just to show the TCAS. So if I'm going to put that to TARA, we get to see hopefully, all the other airplanes. Here they all are, and the diamonds showing us what they're all doing. So in this mode, we can see the diamonds. If they're a diamond with a black center, or they're hollow diamonds, then they're not considered a threat to us. If they go solid, it means they're considered a threat nearby, and that means they are potentially going to become an issue and may lead to a TCAS alert or a resolution advisory. The number around it, or beneath it, sorry, shows the altitude relative to us. So they are 2,800 feet beneath us, this airplane here passing underneath us. That's probably that BAW 473. So they're 2,900 feet. Now they're 3,000 feet and they're descending because of this little down arrow. If they had an up arrow, they'd be climbing. So that shows us where they are in relation to us. If they're at plus 1,000, or plus 10, sorry, it looks like plus 10, it means they're 1,000 feet above us. If they're at minus 3,4, it means they are 3,400, 3,500 feet now beneath us, and they are descending. So that's a good way to gauge whether it's an issue or not. If we set it to TA only, like this, we'll still get to see that all, but we get this warning TA only, which means traffic advisory only, or traffic alert only. It means it's not going to actually give us that resolution advisory where it tells us what to do. It's just going to shout traffic at us, but it won't actually do anything. So we don't fly around in that mode unless there's a very specific emergency procedure that requires us to. For example, if the airplane loses an engine, it may no longer be capable of flying a resolution advisory safely, so you put it to alert only. So we'll leave it on TA RA now to show us. Let's look at this panel in a bit more detail. So we've already said we need to set the right hand switch here on the TCAS section to TA RA for traffic advisory and resolution advisory, and then the switch on the left shows what, or tells us what we're going to see on our displays. So when it's set to the full left position, which is threat, it's not actually going to show us any traffic on our navigation display. What it will do here is it will give us a picture of the traffic only if a traffic advisory or a resolution advisory is present. So it's basically hiding it. They've also got to be within 2,700 feet of where we are. So we never really use that. It's a bit pointless. It just hides all the data. If we go to all, we should see, there we go, we can now see some aircraft. This is going to show us all traffic even without a traffic advisory or resolution advisory, as long as it's within 2,700 feet below or 2,700 feet above. So when it goes below 2,700 feet beneath us, it will disappear off the screen, and likewise if it goes above 2,700 feet above us. So this is quite common to use because this will just give you a sensible idea of the traffic around you. But we also have these two options. Above. So above is going to show traffic way up above us, up to 9,900 feet above us. So this is often used by pilots in the climb because it will give us a better idea, better situational awareness of the traffic above us. There you go, they're descending beneath us now. And then shortly they'll probably disappear off our screen as they go below 27 below us. So when it's set to above, the traffic that's more than 2,700 feet beneath you will disappear off the screen, but you'll see the traffic above you up to 9,900 feet above you. So if you're climbing very quickly, that is more useful. It may give you a better idea of what's above you and where you're headed. Obviously, it should be pretty clear that below is the opposite. So if I set to below, it will show us more traffic down. So here we can see traffic, look at that, 3,500 feet beneath us, 7,500 feet beneath us. So this is going down to 9,900 feet beneath us and 2,700 feet above us. So we won't see so much above. So pilots will often use above for the climb, and then as soon as you're in the cruise, people set it to below. And the reason is if we want to do an emergency descent, that could be useful for seeing traffic beneath us. So there you go. So those are the different displays. So if we were in our descent into London now, it would be typical to have it on below. What I want to point out is that it does not matter which of these four settings you have. They do not affect the TCAS's ability to give you traffic alerts, or traffic advisory, sorry, and it does not affect the TCAS's ability to give you a resolution advisory. So you don't, if you forget this switch, it does not matter. It just means you might lose some of your situational awareness, but you will still get the alerts if you were to actually reach that traffic. So let's descend down now into the area, see if we can get some TCAS alerts. Something to point out is that if there's no altitude information, which some transponders do not broadcast, then you'll just see the diamond. You won't get the readout beneath it. So this will not give you, if you just have a diamond, you will never get a resolution advisory. The TCAS doesn't have enough information. It doesn't know where that airplane is. So that is a situation where you could just get the traffic called out, but you won't actually get the resolution advisory here, but you need to solve that yourself. Okay, so here we go. We're going to head in and have a full-on traffic traffic alert. Oh, sorry, I keep getting that wrong, but a traffic advisory followed by a resolution advisory. So we can see the traffic is level with us on our navigation display, minus 0.0, but it is not filled in. It is a hollow diamond. The TCAS does not consider it a threat. It is just currently an intruder of some variety. So the name for those hollow diamonds, just intruder. It's too far away to be a concern. As we get closer, it's going to turn into proximate traffic, which will be when the diamond goes white and solid, and then it will go into a potential threat, and it will turn amber. There it is, so it's gone amber now. It is a potential threat, so we get the traffic called out from the aircraft, and you can see TCAS blue on the PFD just above the artificial horizon, telling me it has armed the automatic TCAS system. For this one, we're going to let the airplane fly it automatically. So there we go, TCAS goes green, the traffic has gone red on the navigation display, and you can see the green VSI area is at 1500 feet per minute or below. And there it goes, and the aircraft is doing a fantastic job. It has pitched the nose down, and it has got the vertical speed into that green area, which, as you can see, 1700 feet per minute, perfect. And we are descending away from that traffic, now passing 500 feet above us. Aircraft now says clear of conflict, and you can see it says VS plus 1000. It's automatically reverted into a mode to take us back to the original level. That is what you would want to do. We return to where air traffic control originally had us cleared. Now they may modify that subsequently, but this is the magic of the automatic TCAS system. It flies them so well, so accurately, we just have to monitor it to make sure it does do it. So as you saw there, the traffic turned from just being normal traffic into a traffic advisory, followed by a full-on resolution advisory, and the airplane followed it and followed the vertical speed required to avoid the traffic. There I've set it to TA, but I changed my mind, put it back to TCAS RA to show you another one. So this is using the automatic system on the aircraft. The airplane can do this. The A320neo family does this, but the older ones do not. We fly them manually. We will talk about the manual version of this shortly. Here we go, we get another one. So speed and outstar, we're climbing up to meet them. They're descending to meet us, so the TCAS gets upset and gives us that traffic advisory. There it goes, traffic again. TCAS is armed and blue, and we shall see what happens. Now, of course, you'd never actually fly an aircraft in real life, but this is just for the demonstration. So there they are in front of us. And this time we get a climb. The aircraft says climb, climb, and luckily TCAS engages in green, and the VSI goes up into the green band. And look how TCAS is the active vertical mode now, so the airplane will just fly that green band. It's very clever stuff. Previously we would do this manually ourselves, and I will show you how that works and the risks of that shortly. But there we go, climbing away. This is an amazing piece of work by the Fly-by-Wire team. You saw very briefly there, it said level off, it went to green for level, which the real aircraft does do. And here we go, it reverts back into a descent now to take us back to that original level, VS minus 1000, which would typically be what it does when it's reverting back out of the TCAS. Very clever. I'm very impressed, not only with this coding, but this whole idea as a principle. Now we're going to have a look at a little thing that I wasn't fully aware of that taught me something interesting about the automated TCAS system. If you're flying without the auto thrust system engaged, the automatic TCAS, if it becomes active, will actually re-engage the auto thrust into speed mode. It's quite clever. So there you go, auto thrust is now off, and I manually take over. And you can see we have TCAS armed and blue. So we're looking at the same exact scenario as before. We're going to let it automatically fly a resolution advisory. So here we go, resolution advisory, and look at that. So not only does it fly into the green, it's automatically engaged speed mode on the auto thrust. Now, of course, if you don't have auto thrust active, or if you don't have it available, i.e. it's broken, then maybe that obviously would not happen. But there you go, look at that. So you've got speed mode automatically, and it's going to descend. Now, why is that important? It's crucial the airplane goes into speed mode when you have a TCAS alert, and I will explain why later on in the video when we look at the manual ones. But that's a great little detail that Fly-by-Wire have put into that. Very impressed. And there we go, all clear. Aircraft returns to its level. Something I'd like to talk about now is flying the TCAS manually. So yeah, there's a whole mess of modes. I've been searching around trying to find traffic instance to show you. So let's go back to our level. So we're going to go back to 3,000 feet. So what I mean by this is not all aircraft are fitted with the automated TCAS. Neo aircraft are, but that is obviously a relatively new thing. So what if the auto TCAS doesn't work? We have to be ready to take over from it. It's an automated system, so it's no good that we rely on it to always work. So what if it doesn't work and we don't get TCAS blue for whatever reason? There's a malfunction. Very unlikely, but if it does, how do we fly it? And this is also how we've flown TCASs on the Airbus traditionally in all the older versions until the Neos came out with this fancy new feature. So what do we do? Well, it's a similar idea. So you get your traffic call out, and you're going to, somebody's going to announce the TCAS, and they're going to announce that they have control of the aeroplane. It should be pilot flying, obviously. So they're going to say that because it's important that we know that somebody is going to react to this, because the traffic alert or traffic advisory, sorry, I keep saying alert, it is a traffic advisory, that is a warning that something could now potentially happen. And our little diamond will have gone white, and then it would have to announce that it's proximate traffic, and then it would have gone amber to announce that it is becoming an actual threat. That would turn it into a traffic advisory. So we announce that we're ready to take over, but we have a limited time where we need to have taken over and flown the maneuver if it turns into a resolution advisory where we need to do something. So what do we do? Well, it's quite simple. We say, well, we don't actually have to say anything. We would announce that we're turning off the autopilot, because that has to go, because we're going to need to react quicker than we can by programming the autopilot to make it follow that green bar that we've already seen with the automated TCASs. It will appear in exactly the same way on the PFD. You'll get the red area that you mustn't be in on the VSI, the vertical speed indicator. There'll be a red area to ignore, or not to ignore, not to get out of, and a green area to get into. And it will tell you as well. It will say climb, descend, or level, or whatever you need to do. So you will just follow that by pitching the airplane into the green area. It's not a hyper-aggressive maneuver. It's not a full 2.5 G maximum side stick back or down. You just have a few seconds to get it into the green area, and it's very important we do. What we don't want to do is hover in the edge of the red area. You just need to get it into the green and stay there. You don't need to go further than the green, obviously. You just need to get it into the green. It's very straightforward, but it's got a few subtleties to it. So I'm going to pretend, I haven't managed to orchestrate one while talking to you, but I'm going to pretend we have a TCAS now that says climb, and it says you've got to climb at, let's say, 1500 feet per minute or greater. So that would put the green area somewhere, it would be red from here up to the 1500, and then it'd be green above that. So how do we do it? So let's imagine it says right now, it goes climb, climb. So you turn off the autopilot, you ask for the flight directors off, because they have to be turned off, and then you pitch the nose up like that, and then we get it into the green, which is there, and then we leave it there. Great. And you can see that if our red area was up to 1500, we've made it. And it will announce like this, and then eventually, just as it did with the automatic TCAS, it will eventually say clear of conflict. So all we'd have to do for that is we would need to get the airplane back down to 3,000 feet. You do return to the original cleared level from air traffic control. That is the intention after a TCAS, unless they subsequently give you something different to do. So if that were to happen, and we need to rebuild now, there's lots and lots of ways to do it. Most importantly, you need to do it as a crew, so you need to announce what you're doing. But something that does work quite well is if you pitch back to roughly where you were, and then I know I want to go back down to 3,000, so if I lower the nose ever so slightly, we're gently descending. Now I can ask for the flight directors to be turned back on, and we check the modes. So we've still got speed mode, we've got vertical speed -500 and heading, and it's descending down to 3,000 feet without blue and armed. All of that's great, so I just engage the autopilot, and we're back to where we want to be, descending back down to that cleared level of 3,000 feet. So it's important we do that discussion together. The reason I put the nose down into a shallow descent before re-engaging the autopilot is because, before turning on the flight directors, is because if we lower the nose and then turn on the flight directors, it will engage the current vertical speed you're doing. So we've saved ourselves having to change the vertical speed or having the wrong sort of FMAs. Okay, let's imagine now, I'm just going to run through that again. So let's imagine we get another climb TCAS RA that says climb 1500 feet per minute or greater, which we'll see on the PFD, just like you saw earlier. So autopilot off, the flight director's off, and I'm pitching up. And here we go, all the way up to 1500 feet per minute. And away we go. Now, why do we turn off the flight directors? Why don't we just disconnect the autopilot and pitch the nose? It seems strange to add in an extra step. Well, you'll notice an important thing here is that we are in speed mode. So it says speed. So it's vitally important we turn off those flight directors, because that will force the auto thrust into speed mode, which is the only mode we want active in a TCAS circumstance. And that's why we turn them off. And I will show you why that's important by doing it wrong in just a second. Something else then, let's look at the rebuild. Let's imagine we need to go back to 3,000 feet now, and I don't bother lowering the nose properly. I just say, right, flight director's back on, and there we go. Well, if we look at the FMAs now, they're not so good. We have a vertical speed of a climb, which we don't want, so I need to adjust that all the way down. We also have no armed altitude. There's no out blue because the altitude is obviously beneath us, so it can't arm it if we're flying away from it. So this is a completely useless mode. The heading mode's fine, so I could engage the autopilot and then I'll have to change it, maybe thrust idle open descent. Probably not. You probably go to another vertical speed given that you've had a TCAS alert already, but there you go. So it's just one thing less to do if you point the airplane gently back where you want it to go. So, as promised then, let's look at what happens if we do it wrong. Let's imagine I'm in a thrust idle open descent. There we go. Thrust idle open descent. Let me turn off that horn. So, thrust idle open descent down to 3,000 feet, which is not an uncommon position to get a TCAS alert in because, of course, you'll be descending quicker if you're doing it at thrust idle than if you're doing a more controlled vertical speed descent. So, thrust idle open descent, and we get our TCAS alert to climb 1,500 feet per minute or greater. And this time, I'm not going to turn off the flight directors, which is incorrect. So here it goes, traffic, and then it goes climb. So autopilot off, and then I pitch up to 1,500 feet per minute. Up the nose goes. But here's the problem. Thrust is still at idle, and then you saw it revert to speed because the speed got too low. So just for the second there, it was at thrust idle, and that is a problem because, of course, it means the airplane's going to run out of energy. Here we go. So we're no longer obeying our traffic alert. Our resolution advisory, and we're in a low speed event. So now the thrust kicks in and we can finally get going. So a total mess. It's really not good at all. And it's just a sign of how important it is. Because if you have it in thrust idle and you don't turn off the flight directors, the airplane will stay in thrust idle until it gets into a low speed event. So that's no good at all. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to demonstrate it again in the opposite sense. So let's imagine we're climbing. So I'm in thrust climb, open climb, and heading mode. And we're climbing to 10. No, let's climb up much higher. Let's climb to 16, flight level 160. So we're climbing away like this, and we get a traffic, and then it says descend. So what we should do is turn off the autopilot and the flight directors, but I'm going to forget the flight directors. So autopilot off, and I shove the nose down. And let's say it was 1,500 feet per minute. So there we go, we're in a 2,500 feet per minute rate of descent. And you think, great, happy days, we're in the green area. But if you look, the thrust has stayed in thrust climb, and now the speed is running away, and it stays in thrust climb. And you might think, well, that's no problem, we're just accelerating, and we're going faster, but at least we're not going to stall like in the low speed event, and we're staying in the 1,500 feet per minute descent. So yeah, I can see the argument for that, but of course this is a relatively uncontrolled situation. But here's where we run into trouble. Now the Airbus is going to protect us as we overspeed, so I'm trying to maintain 1,500, and I can't. Now I'm only doing 800 because the aeroplane is going to pitch up and try and slow down for me. So again, we are now no longer obeying our TCAS, which is incredibly dangerous. So these are all reasons we must obey and turn off the flight directors. Something else to point out, I'm just going to turn off the automatics here, is that the TCAS it automatically goes into TA only mode. So we said earlier that we always put it to TA RA on this switch down here, but it will automatically go to TA only in certain circumstances. And those are circumstances, like I said, possibly to do with engine failures and things like that, but also there's some other ones, which includes a wind shear alert, because it's more important that we escape the wind shear than we avoid the TCAS. Then we've got the stall warner, because of course if we're struggling with the stall, we can't obey the TCAS. We have to fly the airplane first. It's more important. So the TCAS will be inhibited. It will go to TA only in that circumstance. A GPWS, so that would of course end you with it would ignore the TCAS. It will prioritize the GPWS callouts, and of course it's going to inhibit it for landing. So around 1,000 feet above the ground, it will turn off. And the reason for that is that of course you need to not be getting TCAS alerts of stuff off the ground. You don't want to be trying to land and you get a resolution advisory to climb and things like that. So below 1,000 feet you don't get it. And there's another reason for that, which is that if you were to get a TCAS at 1,000 feet, there you go. So it's already gone to TA only there. I was thinking about it. It should do it in just a moment. This is obviously not a realistic profile to be flying, but just to show you and just to see if it's modelled by the FlyByWire team. But yeah, it's going to not be a good idea to get a TCAS, because imagine if we got a TCAS to descend. There we go. And now we get TA only. So imagine if we're here on the ILS, about 3 miles to go, 1,000 feet, and we get a traffic alert, a resolution advisory to descend. This would be a difficult maneuver because, of course, we'd put the nose down, we'd get 1,500 feet per minute or something like that, And then, of course, shortly after, we're going to get the GPWS, and we're going to have to then fly the full pull-up toga, and away we go. So, yeah, 1,000 feet, it's inhibited. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's been interesting for you. This is a big topic. Thank you again to the Fly-by-Wire team for putting the effort to put this in, and especially to have that auto TCAS modelled so well. And I'm really impressed with some of the extra details they've added there, and it's been great to revisit it all in the simulator. I'd also like to say that this is, of course, a huge topic. I have no doubt there's things that I've missed, and there'll be questions that you guys bring up which always impress me, and that I should have probably included in the video. So we may talk about this again in the future, and I'll try my best to answer in the comments, or maybe we'll look at it in another update or stream. But yeah, it's going to have implications, I'm sure, to other aspects of flying, and people will wonder what you do in certain situations. But hopefully today's covered the big picture of what TCAS really is there to do, and how we typically see it used in day-to-day flying. There'll be plenty more video guides like this and live streams to come on the channel, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more of those. Otherwise, we'll see you again in another of those videos or live streams soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.